Hello, and welcome to the first episode of 50 over 100 What's on My Mind, dated today, February the 1st, 2012. Now, this isn't actually a show about my weight loss, this is just a show about things that are on my mind at the moment and sort of really taking up my time when I'm not busy with other things. What I'm going to talk about this week for the first episode is the NBC series Chuck, which has just wrapped this week after 5 years. That would have been on Saturday for Australia. In America, that would have been Friday. Now, why this show is important and why it's on my mind at the moment, besides the controversy of its ending, which I'll get to later, is because the original intention for this show, 50 over 100, was to be called Cop Loves Chuck. Now, the whole point of Cop Loves Chuck was that about 3 years ago, I was attending the New South Wales Police Academy in Goulburn. I was a lot healthier, a lot fitter, a lot more motivated, and probably a lot more happier in my life. Not that I'm not happy now, but certainly doing a lot better. But what actually happened was I was at the end of it. I'd gone through everything, including the physical stuff, and I've always had a problem with physical stuff, but I failed my final law exam, sadly twice, because when I failed the first one by only 6%, and when I took the retest, I was really sick and didn't get enough sleep the night before, and I failed by like 30 odd percent. It was a real shock, and it was that whole year wasted. As a result of that, I was unable to return to the academy for 2 years following. And now, during that time, I added an extra, 35 kilos to myself, and my whole life changed. Some things for the best, some things, certainly weren't. And one of the things that got me through this time and sort of stopped it from getting even worse was the show Chuck, which I've been told about, and I sort of really embraced as a result of that and got involved with a lot of the fan campaigns to sort of keep it going and stuff like that. But when it was getting down to me being able to return to the academy, I had the plan. Well, Chuck has really inspired a lot of the things with keeping me motivated and trying to get me back into fixing the problems caused by my weight loss and all that, and really drive me to be a better man. And I did a title card and everything. I'll post that at some point. But what ended up happening was, of course, that Chuck finished its 4th season, and it looked like it was the end of it there because it didn't have great ratings in America. I mean, I guess at 4 million people an episode, that's no one watching it. But NBC was nice enough to give them a last 13 episode season 5, to just sort of wrap everything up. And that was great of them because, if it had been any other network, say like the 20th Century Fox network, look, they probably wouldn't have gone past the 2nd season. But kudos to all of us fans and Subway and various other people and the critics especially. Critics love the show. It was one of those shows that both fans and critics alike sort of liked. So it had a lot of support, and it was a show that was always on the verge of cancellation, even when it had 6 million people watching it. So it was a serious thing. But no, so Cop Loves Chuck was basically going to just detail me returning to the academy and sort of, my weight loss up to that point, and sort of, what Chuck taught me and what inspired me, in certain episodes and things like that. And sort of try and use that to motivate people, use the medium of television to inspire people, because it was really a great show. It was a spy show, it was an action show, it was an adventure show, it was a comedy, a drama, it had sort of really strong family elements. And I really missed the show, I gotta say. But because of what ended up happening to it, and also some problems that I was having at the time, Cop Loves Chuck didn't get made. And it wasn't until recently that, of course, 50 over 100 got made instead. Now, just to talk a bit more about Chuck, for those who don't know what the hell it is, as said, it's a show about a guy who works at a major goods store, so electronics, and they also include food and books and all that sort of stuff, like Kmart or Big W or Harvey Norman, something like that. And he gets the entirety of the NSA and CIA's intelligence basically download into his brain, along with a supercomputer that was designed to sort of match those together. And he, of course, is then followed around by an NSA and a CIA agent and dragged along onto a whole bunch of adventures. But at the end of the day, Chuck was a normal guy, not a spy. He had family dramas, he had, it was all centered on how he handled, these new responsibilities were thrust on him. And the truth is, he became a very, modern day very heroic character, who sort of wouldn't give up and did everything to sort of better himself and get the girl, which he did. Chuck was played by Zach Levi, or Levy, depending on your pronunciation. Some people may know him from the second Alvin and the Chipmunks movie recently. He was a replacement for Dave. He's also the creator of the Nerd Machine, which is a big community for all the nerds out there. I identify as a geek myself, but I'm proud to be a member of them as well. And also starred Yvonne Strahovski, an Australian actress who is probably best known internationally as Miranda Lawson of Mass Effect 2 and hopefully Mass Effect 3 fame. For those romantics out there, she was also in the Australian film I Love You Too, and probably was the most intriguing character in the Home and Away spin-off Heartland. Not that I like to admit that I ever watched that. It also starred a whole bunch of other great actors, many of them who I'd never seen before, with the exception of Adam Baldwin, who many people, of course, know from Firefly and Serenity as Jane Cobb, one of the most famous tough guys who wasn't an 80s action star. Well, that doesn't mean he wasn't in 80s action movies, but he was never one of those headliner types. But I really think he should have been. He's a great bloke. A bit political if you've ever followed him on Twitter, but all the same. But no, look, I'm really sad about the show ending. I'd like it to keep going, but I realize that in America, ratings determine all, and as I said, it was nice for NBC to give them another 13-episode season. But now getting to the ending, and this is a spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the finale or the last few episodes preceding it, or those people who... Because the problem is the show doesn't actually stream internationally. It streams in US and Canada and a few other countries, but we can't stream it here. Okay? Streams in America, Canada, all that sort of thing. So we have to wait till the DVDs to really get here, or have pay TV, because I have it there. But it was never a primetime TV thing. It was never a commercial television thing. So a lot of people may not have seen it yet, those who don't download the episodes or anything from the net. So the ending basically culminated with the second main character, or the co-main character, Sarah Walker, played by Yvonne Strahovski, losing her memory of the last 5 years. The last 5 seasons of the show were just wiped from her memory. And whilst every other character in the show got a pretty good send-off, I think, in the end, basically everything that her and Chuck had built over these 5 years, including getting married and, being on the verge of having, white picket fence, kids, all that sort of stuff, she was set back to square one. And although she had fragments of her memory from what happened before, it wasn't exactly anything close to, all the development. The series ended on the premise of the very Disney style, with a kiss, she might remember everything. Now, this is something the show played with before back in the 4th season with Chuck, because Chuck was having his memory scrubbed clean. And it was, of course, the memory of Sarah, and Sarah actually being there telling her that, she loved him and giving him a kiss that somehow restored all of the memory that had been scrubbed. So there's a precedent for it on the show, even if it was a bit different. But it was the hope that him kissing her would sort of help bridge a lot more of the memories together. Actually, a friend of mine said that what happened to her, as far as he sees it, is that the memories are there, but sort of the indexing system for how she can, enter those memories is lost. So it's more a context-sensitive thing where she encounters situations and she can, react accordingly to how she used to by accessing the relevant part of her memory. Whether that's the case or not. But the thing is, the show ended very ambiguously as to whether that kiss actually worked. Because, the thing is, she's willing, after everything that happens with them, for him to try that right at the end. And it's just this beautiful scene. And someone talked about, one of the creators talking about the show having come full circle. And a lot of people were sort of annoyed by that. So, we have to watch Chuck all over again, knowing what this is going to come up to. That said, someone recently mentioned on the Chuck forums, which I gotta say at the moment are flaming with hatred, someone actually mentioned that the original few seasons of Chuck actually started with the line, "Hey, I'm Chuck. Here are some things you may not know or just don't remember. And although Chuck's obviously not talking to Sarah, it's nice to sort of imagine, what if this is Chuck telling, her their story? Because there is a scene in the final episode where she goes, Chuck, tell me our story. And I think personally, from a come full circle and look back at it, you can sort of look at it that way, that the entire series, as you watch it over again in loop, is him explaining everything to her all over again, rather than just some viewer who's never identified, that he's explaining it all to. So it wasn't one of those things like, it was a previously on segment, but unlike other shows, it was always included on the DVDs and everything else. It was made very clear that that would be attached to the episode. Where other shows, say like Firefly, which actually had a really good intro on most episodes that was completely narrated, was actually cut from most of the releases because it didn't have anything to, I don't know why. And this is the case with most shows on DVD, just cut that previously on. That said, a lot of shows still have it, but neither here nor there. But the point was Chuck had it, and it was all, what you may not know or what you might have forgot. And I just sort of like that as the idea now that he's telling Sarah all of that again. But that was controversial, sort of that ending of, does she get her memory back or doesn't she? I personally think, and certainly some people will hate me for it, especially if a lot of the guys on the boards who are really raging at the moment, but I think it might be better if she doesn't just remember instantaneously everything that happened to her. I think the truth is that the new Sarah Walker, the revised Sarah Walker, even if she hasn't come to remember everything that she had before, in terms of character evolution, she evolved far quicker than the original Sarah allowed herself to. This Sarah is aware of a lot of stuff from her life before. She actually found a whole bunch of video logs that her original self was recording as she went through the first few seasons of the show. And of course, she has, what Chuck told her. And I think she was far more willing to let, her guard down than the original Sarah was. So it's highly possible that she'll get all of her memories back in time. Just on the note of memories and how tragic it is, one of the other things I'd like to point out, the few people have pointed out that the most tragic part of Sarah's memory loss is not that she doesn't remember everything that happened with Chuck, but by the same token, it's everything that she shared with his sister Ellie. As I said, there's a lot of family involvement in this show, and his sister is a really big part of that. And Ellie, she and Sarah sort of became like sisters, and overall they became the family that Sarah really couldn't have. Not really going to spoil much beyond that, although I have really gone to town with spoilers, so it shouldn't really matter. But that was another big loss that I thought. I thought not what's happened between her and Chuck, but what's happened between her and all the other characters, what she's lost and how she's grown. So hopefully she'll recover that. And look, even back in the semi-official comic book series back in the day, they proposed a future where, everything was fine. They ended up with kids and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I like to be hopeful and think that that will still happen one day. Now, there's talk of people wanting a movie or a web series, stuff like that. Zach and a couple of others have suggested that they'd love to do that. So there is Chuck versus the movie, which you can find on Facebook. Actually, you can find about 4 or 5 of them on Facebook. Generally, look, like all of them, there's a number of petitions online that you should sort of go along with and go, yes, I would like to have that, because I think this series has a potential to do well in that format. A lot of shows started from web series nowadays, and there's a lot of really great web series out there. The Guild, Fallout, Nuka Break, stuff like that sort of survive on their own. But I think that there is the potential for Chuck to be able to do that. And if we're only talking about paying a couple of dollars, maybe $5 to $20 for, an internet movie or something like that, I'd pay that. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't. There's nothing, it's not going to break the bank. I mean, look at the success of things like Dr. Horrible and stuff like that. You can definitely make money, on something that's based in the internet. So that's the end of this first episode. I know I tend to go on and on and on and on, but this is something that was really important to me. As said, I will try and find that Cop Loves Chuck. title card, and I actually did a little theme song with me sort of looped over myself, sort of doing a theme song and all that sort of stuff. Multi-tracked, I should say, but looped over as well. So I'll try to find that stuff. But that's the end of this first episode. As always, like, dislike, comment, subscribe. Go check out all those things that are trying to get Chuck, a little mini movie or web series or something like that. Because I've had web series before. They've had a whole bunch of tie-in web series already. So there's no reason why they can't continue to do those if we're willing to sort of support them in that. Because, people got to eat in that. And digital film. You got to make sure you have digital film in the camera. That's kind of important. But no, look, thanks again. Thanks for watching. And catch you probably tomorrow with my wrap up of the first month of 50 over 100. So see you then, and be good to yourselves. Bye.